I never expected my life to spiral like this over a single decision. Yet here I was, standing in the middle of our apartment, staring at the mess of what used to be a home. My name is Ethan, 33, and for the past 7 years, I believe that trust, loyalty, and effort were enough to keep a relationship alive. Apparently, I was wrong. It all started innocently. Claire and I had been together since university. She was smart, funny, magnetic, the kind of person whose laugh could light up a room. We shared everything, our dreams, our fears, even late-night pizzas when the world outside felt cold. For the first few years, it was perfect, or as perfect as life allows. I worked hard, managing my small tech startup, while she was climbing her marketing career. We balanced each other, or so I thought. Then he appeared. Liam, her lazy boyfriend, though I only discovered it much later, was the kind of person who avoided responsibility, who thrived on charm and excuses rather than effort. I never met him at first. I didn't need to. The signs were subtle. Claire started canceling plans with me, claiming she was too busy or too tired. Yet somehow she always had energy for him. My gut warned me, but I convinced myself I was overreacting. At first, I tried to ignore it. I cooked dinner, tidied up the apartment, sent her little messages just to see her smile. But her smiles began to feel mechanical. She no longer looked at me like I mattered. She glanced at me the way one might glance at a stranger in a coffee shop. The warmth, the spark, the connection, it all evaporated. The breaking point didn't come a fight or a confession. It came quietly, painfully. One Thursday evening, she slouched onto the sofa, phone in hand, and said without looking up, "Ethan, I think I need space. Liam makes me happy in ways you don't." The words hit me like a punch to the chest, though she delivered them softly, almost casually. There was no screaming, no dramatic scene, just a cold, sharp statement that cut deeper than any argument ever could. I felt invisible, discarded, and yet my mind worked faster than my heart. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to cry in the hallway like some character in a cheap romantic movie. I decided that if she was going to choose him over everything we built together, then I would show her that I was worth more than she could ever imagine. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I spent the next few days quietly planning. My resignation letter sat on my laptop, innocuous at first glance. The truth was, I had worked at a prestigious marketing firm for 8 years, a job that paid well but drained the life out of me. I had been planning to leave eventually, but now the timing felt perfect. I crafted the letter carefully, professional, polite, decisive. Every word was deliberate. I didn't need to scream my anger. I didn't need to make her feel guilt. She already did by choosing him. I simply needed her to realize what she was losing. The night I handed her the printed letter, I remained calm, as if nothing unusual was happening. She glanced up, brow furrowed. "What's this?" she asked. I met her eyes, steady and unflinching. "It's my resignation, effective immediately," I said. My voice was calm, controlled, every syllable deliberate. She froze. The laughter that once defined her presence disappeared instantly. I saw a panic flicker in her eyes, a sudden awareness that the life she had taken for granted was no longer guaranteed. The apartment, the comfort, the security, everything hinged on me, and suddenly I wasn't there. Why?" she stammered. Her words were a mixture of confusion and fear, a rare glimpse of vulnerability from someone who had grown so comfortable in her choices. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch, thick and suffocating. The weight of it settled over her, an invisible wall she couldn't cross without acknowledging the truth. She had underestimated me. I had planned this part carefully. My letter was more than words on paper. It was a signal, a test, a challenge, a mirror showing her exactly what life looked like without my presence and effort, and she flinched at the sight of it. For the first time in months, she looked at me, not through me, not past me, but at me. Fear and regret danced in her eyes, but I remained steady, calm, untouchable in my quiet strength. The irony was almost delicious. All this panic, all this chaos, caused not by drama or shouting, but by the simple, undeniable truth that I had chosen myself. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks without the weight of her indifference pressing down on me. And yet, the story was far from over. What she didn't know, and what would unravel over the coming days, would shock her, challenge her, and ultimately force her to confront the consequences of her choices in ways she never expected. Because sometimes the quietest actions carry the loudest echoes. And my resignation letter? That was just the beginning. The next morning, I woke to the quiet hum of the city outside our apartment, the sunlight spilling across the hardwood floors. Claire wasn't there, and for the first time, I didn't feel the familiar pang of dread. Instead, there was a strange clarity, a sense that the game had shifted. I had moved first, and now she was reacting. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. "Ethan, we need to talk. Please come home." Simple, pleading, frantic even. But I didn't rush. I took my time. Every second I delayed was a reminder that she no longer controlled the narrative. She had chosen him. Yet now, she was scrambling to reclaim the ground she had surrendered. I arrived around noon. The moment I stepped in, I could see it. The apartment felt different. Her usually carefree demeanor was gone, replaced by a nervous tension that clung to every corner. Claire paced back and forth like a trapped animal, phone clutched in her hand, her eyes darting to every sound. Liam wasn't there. She hadn't called him. She was on her own, facing the consequences of her choice. "Ethan, I didn't think you'd actually—" She trailed off, unable to finish. The fear in her voice was undeniable. I didn't answer. I simply handed her a cup of coffee, an almost mocking gesture of normalcy. She stared at me, wide-eyed, as if trying to read my intentions. I didn't mean for this to happen," she finally whispered. I raised an eyebrow. "This? Claire, you chose him over me. You made this happen." The words hung in the air like a guillotine waiting to drop. Her hands shook. I thought it wouldn't matter, that you'd always be here. I didn't think you'd actually leave your job. I didn't think—" She faltered, her voice breaking. I let her stew in it for a moment. Months of neglect, of silent indifference, had culminated in this single moment. She finally understood. I wasn't just reacting. I was taking control. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was simply unshakable, unmoved by her panic. She sank onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands. "Ethan, please. I can fix this. I can leave him. I'll do whatever you want." And that's when I realized the full power of my move. She wasn't trying to convince me she loved me anymore. She was trying to convince herself she could regain what she had carelessly abandoned. Her panic was her own admission of failure. "I'm done fixing things for people who don't value them," I said quietly. "I'm done trying to hold a relationship together single-handedly. You made your choice. I made mine." The room went silent. She looked up, eyes wide, desperate. "But my life, everything without you—" I smiled faintly, the calmest I had felt in months. "Everything you relied on me for? Gone. That's not punishment. That's reality." She gasped, realizing that her world had shifted. My resignation meant more than just leaving a job. It symbolized a life she assumed would always be mine to provide. No security, no comfort, no emotional labor, no silent patience. She had underestimated the depth of my resolve, and now, for the first time, she understood it. For the next few days, I watched as her carefully constructed routine crumbled. She called Liam, but his charm couldn't shield her from the consequences of her choices. Bills went unpaid, deadlines she once relied on me to remind her slipped, and the comfort of someone silently holding the weight of her life vanished. I didn't gloat. I simply observed, letting her experience the chaos she'd ignored for months. Then came the final confrontation. Claire begged, pleaded, cried. But my decision was unwavering. I had left emotionally weeks ago, and now, the physical act of walking away, leaving her to face the consequences, cemented the truth. I didn't just resign from my job. I resigned from being her safety net, her fallback, her complacent partner. By the end of the week, Claire realized something she couldn't ignore. Liam wasn't a replacement. He never had been. He offered no stability, no respect, no genuine partnership. All she had left was the echo of what she had lost. And me, steady and untouched, ready to start my life anew. I packed the last of my things from our apartment, leaving behind only the memories of the years I had invested in someone who didn't reciprocate. As I stepped out, I felt lighter than I had in years. Freedom wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive. It was quiet, deliberate, and absolute. Weeks later, I had moved into a new apartment, started a new project at a smaller but more fulfilling firm, and finally felt the weight lift entirely from my chest. Claire called once, begging for reconciliation. I listened, polite but detached, then hung up. No rage, no drama, just finality. The resignation letter had done more than shock her. It had given me back my life. It was a reminder that in relationships, effort is not a currency to be exploited, and love cannot thrive where respect is absent. And as I sat in my new home, the city skyline stretching before me, I smiled quietly to myself. She had chosen. I had chosen. And for the first time in years, I had truly won. Not by punishing, not by chasing, but by walking away with dignity intact. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories aren't about confrontation or revenge. They're about reclaiming yourself quietly and completely. And that was exactly what I had done.